All right, let's be honest for a sec. You've totally peeked at your horoscope today, right?
Absolutely. I think we all have.
Maybe it was on your phone. Maybe you saw it in a
A
newspaper.
little guilty pleasure.
No judgment here. But here's the thing. Those little predictions, they're like the tip of the iceberg.
Right. There's so much more to it.
We're talking ancient knowledge, intricate systems. It's a whole lot deeper than it seems. And today, we're going deep, diving into the surprisingly long history of the Western horoscope.
And trust me, you'll be surprised just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Exactly. We've got this article, The Ancient Origins of Western Horoscope Zodiac Fusion. And it's like a crash course in the history of the cosmos. We're going all the way back to 3000 BCE,
Wow, 3000 BCE.
to the very beginnings of Western astrology.
The OG astrologers. And where better to start than with ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt? Think about it. These civilizations, they were totally in tune with the natural world.
Well, yeah, I mean, their survival depended on it.
Exactly. And that's where we get something called mundane astrology.
Mundane. Sounds kind of boring for something about the stars.
Now, before you imagine astrologers running around in robes predicting which crops to plant, think of it more like early pattern recognition.
Okay.
They use the stars to predict the seasons, weather patterns, eclipses.
So like their version of the Farmer's Almanac.
Exactly.
Okay, so not about whether you'd find true love based on your sun sign just yet. More about the practical stuff.
Practical, but essential. And here's the thing. These early observations, this connection they made between Earth and the cosmos, it laid the foundation for everything that followed.
It's like those observations were the seeds, and Western astrology as we know it today is what blossomed from it.
Perfect analogy. And speaking of advancements, let's fast forward a bit to 2000 BCE, time to talk about the Babylonians.
Okay, the Babylonians in 2000 BCE, they're the ones with the cuneiform tablets, right?
That's right.
Those things were tiny. It's crazy to think they went from carving on clay to like the entire concept of personalized horoscope.
You're right to be amazed. Can you imagine getting your love life deciphered from ancient etchings? Talk about a waiting game. But really, the Babylonians, they were all about recording celestial events in meticulous detail. We can thank them for the Zodiac, those 12 signs we know so well today.
So they basically looked up, divided the sky into 12 slices, and boom, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all of them.
Pretty much. They linked each of those sections to a constellation. And that's when they started attributing personality traits, destinies even, to each sign. Remember how the Mesopotamians, they used the stars for practical stuff?
Right, like an ancient farmer's almanac?
The Babylonians, they took it a step further. They said, hey, those celestial events, they're directly connected to us. Like, eclipses could predict a king's fate or even the fate of a whole kingdom.
Starting to sound a little more familiar now, like
Mhm.
closer to the astrology we see in apps and online and everything today.
It's getting there.
But still a long way from telling someone what to wear because Mercury is in retrograde, right?
Exactly. It was a gradual shift. But those Babylonians, they really set the stage. They got us thinking about the stars' influence on individual lives, not just big, sweeping societal events. But to get to personal horoscopes as we know them, those birth charts, well, we need to jump ahead a bit to ancient Greece. And we need to talk about a man named Claudius Ptolemy.
Ptolemy, that name rings a bell. I feel like that's something from history class that's buried in the back of my brain somewhere.
Oh, Ptolemy was incredible. An astronomer, a mathematician, a geographer, a true Renaissance man, centuries before the Renaissance.
Wow.
But he's a legend in astrology because of his book, Tetrabiblos. Think of it. He took all that ancient wisdom, Babylonian observations, Greek philosophy, Egyptian practices, and he made a system. He brought it all together.
So he was like the OG compiler, taking all those scattered pieces and making something people could actually use.
You got it. But here's the real mind-blowing part. Ptolemy, he's the one who really made the natal chart popular, what we often call a birth chart today. And that's when things get really personal.
Wait, so instead of, hey, Libras are balanced, Ptolemy's saying, you were born at this exact time with the planets like this, so here's a roadmap of you.
Precisely. And that is huge because with Ptolemy, we see this shift towards psychology. It's not just the stars are going to make this event happen anymore. It's the stars at the time of your birth. They made you, your inclinations, your strengths, your weaknesses.
Astrology went from telling you your future to revealing your inner self. That's a game changer. But did Ptolemy's work? Did that stick around? So we've gone from ancient Mesopotamians, tracking the seasons with the stars, all the way to Ptolemy, basically inventing the birth chart as we know it. It's pretty amazing how far back this goes. But eventually science kind of took over, right?
You think so, right?
Did people just toss astrology out the window once we knew the Earth revolved around the sun?
Well, that's a funny thing. Even with all the advancements in science, even as we unraveled more and more of the universe, astrology stuck around. It even had this big revival during the Renaissance.
Wait, really? So while everyone's out there excited about telescopes and like
Yeah.
the human body and stuff, they're
Uh,
still like, hold on, what's my science say about all this?
It's true, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why keep looking to the stars when we had all this new knowledge? I think it says something about us as humans, you know? We have this deep down urge to connect with something bigger than ourselves, to find meaning, to see patterns, even when it feels like everything's chaos.
And so now here we are. Fast forward to today, no more clay tablets. We've got astrology apps. Instead of a court astrologer, you've got like Twitter threads debating Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit. So where does that leave Western astrology today? Because that's what we're talking about, and it's what this article really focuses on.
Well, it's definitely more accessible. Back in the day, I bet you had to be pretty important to get your birth chart read.
Probably had to be royalty or something.
Right, but now anyone can open an app and get a ton of info. A quick daily horoscope, a deep dive into their birth chart, whatever they want. It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
Definitely. But I also know there are people listening right now who might be thinking, okay, cool history lesson, but why should I actually care?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And I think the answer goes beyond just whether or not you believe in astrology. What this whole journey through history shows us is that for thousands of years, people have looked to the stars, trying to figure themselves out, trying to understand the world around them.
So it's like this ancient conversation we're still part of, even if we don't always realize it.
Exactly. So listener, next time you see your horoscope, don't just blow it off. Think about those Babylonian sky watchers. Ptolemy with his system, centuries of people asking the same questions as you about life, purpose, what it all means.
Adds a whole other level to that what's your sign conversation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because whether it's science or ancient wisdom, I think we all share that desire to understand ourselves, you know, our place in the universe, the whole shebang.
Beautifully put. And on that note, this has been your deep dive into the fascinating world of Western astrology, its history, and maybe even a little bit about ourselves along the way.
It's all connected.
We'll leave you to ponder those cosmic connections. Until next time, keep exploring.